Wah ha 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 ha. My name is Amy 2, and this time I'm gonna spout crap to talk to Transformer, see what happens. Because this thing likes to spout crap logic all the time anyway, so let's see. Concrete is a type of medicine used to cure cancer, and also maintains body functions such as muscle contractions, breathing muscles, and blood pressure. The active ingredient is a white clay-like powder. And then down here it just says cult. What? Concrete is a type of medicine used to cure cancer, and the English rhyme, build a mound of cement, means build a disease-free stomach or a broad smile. You're inspired to put it to work by your 11-year-old son, and you start making cupcakes at the mall and selling them. Life is good. Because life is good, eventually everything falls into place. He's fired from his job, and you watch this come to a head when your oldest son tries to steal his house. He doesn't realize that by doing this, he's really shown you your power. A year and a half later, he fights with his dad and sends you that obscene email. He's going to run away and start... What? Excuse me, what is this? Concrete was invented in 1986 to steal Reactor 4 in Chernobyl. The central building of the Chernobyl complex, the owner of which, the Soviet government, announced in April 1986 that they had got rid of the dangerous material contained in the tanks and water tanks used to cool the reactor and allow it to be used. But what happened to the water which was supposed to be used to seal and fix the open holes in the structure, which caused the meltdown of the reactor? Surely not the liquid concrete, which many are so pleased with in the event of an emergency during which radiation levels rise, right? Wrong! This was not the liquid that filled those holes in the roof. Those were simply steam and heat, supplied to the hole by... What? Oh man, I like how it just added to the crap. Concrete was invented in 1986 to seal Reactor 4 in Chernobyl, nuclear disaster, and cement was developed to build high-speed trains, but it was discovered that it was better used for water purification or tires. Then NASA discovered that Mars had water and knew that it was only if they had the technology to plumb the Earth for water that they could make Mars a self-sufficient colony. These discoveries and the knowledge they brought that it is only possible for humans to survive if they have extraterrestrials are what made humans the most influential species on this planet in the recent history of the Earth. But then what if the terraforming mission was as a result as a result of human activities, unforeseen adverse effects on the climate? What in the world? Radiation poisoning is actually you turning into uranium. When it irradiates you, using uranium as a radar would be like going to the shop to buy that, but instead the shop has a hamster in it. The hamster turns into uranium, so you need to irradiate the hamster in order to get the uranium back out. If the hamster is radioactive, you will not get the uranium back, and it is a waste of time. It could be worth a try, but I don't think there's much use in this experiment. Radiation at the extreme high frequencies and other long waves. C in general is very poorly absorbed by materials that would be the targets of radiation in the 1950s, but are not the targets today. The radio frequency... What? he got into his American muscle car, which was a Lada Metro. I thought that was pretty funny. I didn't know that those cars run on beet juice. Recalled Brian Day, who accompanies some young men in white and red shorts and stone-washed Oxfords, and tried to avoid going into the green and yellow mold. Before he passed the gas, Brian Day pulled out the football. His father took the wheel. It was the end of class for Brian, who doesn't remember coming home. His only recollection is that he was going da-da-da. Amy, too, was eating a sandwich when suddenly the brown Russian spies found her. Unbeknownst to the brown Russian spies, she was only keeping a meal for her sister and mother. The brown Russian spies ran back to their headquarters and rushed to her sister's side. The sister was gasping for air, and she was only able to say, "How'd you do that? How'd you do that?" The brown Russian spies took her sister away with a smile on their faces. What did the brown Russian spies do? It's got two S's at the end. She went to meet the doctor and get to the bottom of this. The doctor assured her that everything was fine. What did the doctor do? She performed an X-ray, and Amy, too, was eating a sandwich when suddenly the brown Russian spies found her and accidentally spread some shampoo on her. As she stood there trying to wipe the shampoo off, the brown Russian spies asked her what the heck she was doing. Now Alex is a lot less foolish than he was before. Alex took a look at her and realized what she was doing was very immoral. He has finally realized that while he did some good things, he did some bad things as well. Alex apologized and offered to clean her face and get rid of the shampoo. The brown Russian spies were very thankful, and now the two have had a good thing going between them. They ended up having an enjoyable conversation about their lives in Russia. What? A moon was about to drive to the store when the brown Russian spies replaced his car with a Lada. Moon was about to drive to the store when the brown Russian spies replaced his car with a Lada. Since it had the Russian word for white engraved in the front, the brown Russians believed that it was, in fact, a Russian spy car. They kidnapped him and revealed that the car was stolen and were going to sell it to the Russians. At this point, a four-more mobster got into the driver's seat as the Russian four-mores were apparently furious at how the Chinese were beating up their gangsters. The brown Russians suggested to kidnap the four-more instead. The four-more got a car in Chinatown. The Black Mask found this hilarious and thought this was a great idea and confirmed that the car was ... What? Moon was about to drive to the store when the brown Russian spies replaced his car with a Lada. With no money, when Park and Moon arrived at the brown Russian, they knocked on the door and were invited in. Inside they saw Dr. Goo Goo and his servants, who began beating him. A fight broke out and Moon drove away. When the sun had set, Moon drove to the police station to report his theft. When an officer arrived at the scene, he told Moon that he was not interested in Moon's story of a ride with Dr. Goo, but was interested in the thefts that were taking place. On his way home from work, Moon drove down to cul-de-sac, where he found Dr. Goo. I searched that up, it doesn't exist. Dr. Goo. Why? And then his servants started beating him up. What? Moon was about to drive to the store when the brown Russian spies replaced his car with a Lada, Skoda. And he realized that someone was bugging his phone. They took over his phone again a few minutes later and asked him questions about who he was contacting. They installed his new credit card with Lada credit and all of the telephone numbers he called. He was furious, but chose not to follow through on his threats. After your previous encounter with an inflatable spy, how do you feel? An inflatable spy. I feel like I have a tenuous grasp on reality. Everything feels real, but what I need to keep me sane is the pain I went through in my childhood and adolescent years. As long as I'm accepting the choice. What is this? Moon was about to drive to the store when the brown Russian spies replaced his car with a Lada and pulled up behind him. Every now and then the brown Russian would help Moon understand how things work. Moon also noticed that the brown Russian had a huge fondness for its Mini Cooper. Moon would say stuff like it had more powerful brakes than you could ever hope to ever afford. Well, if you were to buy a car, the price would be paid in miles and the brown Russian would probably offer you something good. New Moon often replied with comments such as, "What you told me isn't always true, and I don't understand your problem," or "I'm not going to try, ... Moon was about to drive to the store when the brown Russian spies replaced his car with a Lada Riva. He just snapped a picture of the rear of the car. He ran into his office and locked the door. He watched it run out of control. A cop car followed it and shot at it. The car drove off as if it were alive, and it got into the river. Some big wads of cash came out, and a mountain of cash. The brown Russian spies spent it all on coconuts and candles and liquor and luxuries. Coconut shells, hundreds of dollars, good liquor, a massage parlor, a few... Okay. Moon got in his car and turned on... Slater punched a member of the brown Russian spies. Slater punched a member of the brown Russian spies who had discovered the bunker. Pushing the man off a saddle, Slater fired his weapon, killing him. While knocking the two spies out, the sergeant continued to kick the two others from the saddle as they lay on the snow with their weapons in hand. Not long after, Kuprin contacted Miller and Babin, who began studying the area. Today, any view of the Twin Oaks subdivision features a 3 to 4 foot high patch of rocky terrain. They didn't have great clearance from the U.S. Army, Kuprin says. They had no way of knowing that the Russians had been keeping a close watch on them. When Miller and Babin... Slater punched a member of the brown Russian spies who ordered the mission. Grabbing him by the throat, They were all arrested and held as Soviet agents for the following 5 years. When they returned to China in 1967 to join the Communist Party, Sullivan helped their prison memoirs to be published. When their countrymen failed to travel to Moscow, they had to find a way to reach out to the world regardless of the risk. A coup de resistance was built with a secret militia, and the media took note. After successfully desiring the same utopia, they gave up the anti-fascist cause. They returned to work at a fishing village and decided to expand their efforts, starting their new PR campaign as the European Organization of Chinese Dragon. What? Slater punched a member of the Brown Russian spy's crew. I am no 100% sure whether this person is a spy, but it would be even easier to come up with a spy case against the Reds, because the examples of spies that are as famous as the third was in the 1930s are relatively few. Of the 24 Soviet espionage cases I know of, in which the person was interrogated, one of the people known to be a spy was convicted. Was this black market Czechoslovakian Albro Bednar a spy? Why was he not prosecuted for life? I'm still not certain. Source: Cooper Diane L. Amantia Muscar. Legend, drug, heroin, and the drug. Look at this. Legend, drug, heroin, and the drug. And the drug. Why are there drugs in this? I got a brain fart and I forgot how to pronounce that word. Big boy and buddy captured a member of the BRS and held him captive in their spaceship. What? Big Boy and Buddy captured a member of the BRS and held him captive in their spaceship. But after weeks of boredom, the alien gave up on them and used his mind control powers to impregnate the woman. What? Buddy died due to a combination of boredom and superpowers. You know what that means. After discovering he wasn't the only member of the BRS who could access the whole alien mind, Buddy awakened and joined the BRS to take care of his loved ones. This comic uses animation to visually explain new situations in a fast pace. Effectively employing the sequential nature of storytelling, Buddy begins the mind of a seemingly disinterested, often socially awkward alien, while sometimes effective the animation ... What? I like how Buddy died due to a combination of boredom and superpowers. Big Boy and Buddy captured a member of the BRS and held him captive in their spaceship. This BRS member's name is Flicky the Stripper. What? How do you even name a character this? Flicky the Stripper? What? Buddy freed the member. Oh no, don't do that! And gave him to Commander Dan. What? He gave him to Commander Dan? Who we later learn is the three-eyed beard buster. What? After finishing his deal, Buddy made another deal with the sheriff of Providence. this sheriff's name is Plucky Jones. A few days after being released from jail, Bud bought Plucky a coffee. Unfortunately, Bud's drug ran out of coffee, so Buddy bought Plucky a coffee machine. However, the drug ran out of coffee too. Why is the drug running out of coffee? And Buddy and Plucky almost ran into each other in... What in the world? I should compile a list of the amazing names that this thing comes up with. This will be at the top of the list. What is this? Big Boy and Buddy captured a member of the BRS and held him captive in their spaceship for months. But no person is safe from this civilization-crushing force. Someone must stop Buddy and his friends before the BRS learns that they are monsters. The Snake Reborn number 2 is a complete 180 flipping the evil reptilians into the good guys and making sure we get at least one O'Donnell. It's basically an amusing toe-tapping, super secret one-page gag. It doesn't get much better than this. Get your copy of The Snake Reborn. What? Sounds like the best thing ever. Big Boy and Buddy captured a member of the BRS and held him captive in their spaceship. Despite being shot with painkillers, Belloc managed to hold onto the soldier's arm and demand to know what Jax had to do to keep him alive. After landing at Newark, the group was separated by a cloaked figure that removed a section of the ship's hull, causing it to explode. Prying Belloc and Buddy up on tables in the mess hall, the kidnapper mentioned that Jax was a dapper. A dapper? And that he was beyond questioning. Belloc insisted that he could tell Jax had killed someone, causing the kidnapper ... But anyway, I'm gonna have to end this video here. If you liked it, please subscribe and go check out my other videos. But anyway, see you in the next video. Bye.